My name is Kyle Cinco, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about the limitless potential of enhanced geothermal systems. This is just the agenda page, not going to spend a lot of time here. I wanted y'all to know up front that I made all my pictures with Copilot as AI, had to generate pictures for me. I thought this one was particularly funny because I told it to make my agenda, and this is what it came up with. As many of you know, whether for better or worse, the world has been moving away from oil and natural gas and towards renewable energy sources. And geothermal energy has mostly been placed on the sidelines. It's really barely talked about. It's mostly located on the West Coast or in areas of high seismic activity or volcanic activity. But the hopes of this presentation is to bring light to the changes that are on the horizon for geothermal energy, that it could potentially become a front runner in the renewables market in the near future. So a little bit about the history. The roots of geothermal energy run back to Larderello, Italy, back in 1904. It produced the first 250 kilowatt energy plant by 1913. Half a century later, the United States and New Zealand built their own plants using similar technology and utilizing geysers and steam pits. Enhanced geothermal systems, or EGS, I can refer to them as, have been attempted since the 1970s, but have mostly been unfruitful. It's just because the technology wasn't there. The U.S. currently utilizes just under 4 gigawatts of energy production from geothermal systems. But there's potential. The U.S. currently holds the highest percentage of growing capacity in the world. So we have 25% of the world's total capacity. So we currently subsidize less than 1% of our electric grid, though, with geothermal. And the prospects of EGS include up to 530 gigawatts of potential. So that's nothing to scoff at. That could boost our grid involvement to greater than 8% by the year 2050. So for the technological advancements, normal geothermal plants, they initially had to be built over existing steam pits or geysers. The newer tech is meant to build our own reservoirs. So we're going to be aiming for what's called hot dry rock. It's areas of 200 degrees Celsius rock minimum. And we basically horizontally drill and then frack it. And then we pump cool water into this really hot rock, and it produces steam for us. So continuously, because it's constantly reheated by the core of the planet. There's a few major geothermal companies leading the way in this research. Fervo Energy Group is the one closest on the horizon. They're using the horizontal drilling and fracking portion of it to reach that hot, dry rock, which has actually not been attempted really till now. And then the other group that I want to talk about, they're called Mazama Energy. They're actually developing new drilling technology. It's called millimeter wave drilling. And it's meant to break up the hardest of rocks so we can drill deeper and further. And then they're developing technology to withstand that insanely high temperatures. As they get deeper, they want to reach greater than 395 degrees Celsius area to get greater energy sources. So environmental benefits, it's carbon neutrality. Geothermal energy produces near zero emissions. So any kind of volcanic activity has the potential to produce CO2 or H2S gas or other toxic gases into the atmosphere. But typically it's less than using any of the other carbon-based sources, so like coal plants especially. The more of these geothermal plants we use, the less of oil and natural gas and coal plants we'd have to use, so that would reduce CO2 globally. So it's a constant, EGS is a constant renewable with minimal land use, which is great too. So compared to wind and solar, there's no latency issues, so the baseload remains steady. Economic benefits, it's very expensive up front, I'm not going to lie, but there's a lot of incentives from the government moving down the pipeline to speed up the permitting process. So the Biden administration passed the Harnessing Energy at the Thermal Sources Act in November of 2024. This gave $60 million to Fervo and Mazama to do their projects. But there's also a lot of tech companies like Alphabet and Meta who are willing to dump billions to reduce their carbon footprint. So they're going to help push this forward too. This is all going to generate thousands of new jobs. It'll create new jobs for oil and gas workers too. So if they're having a time where they're all getting laid off, they could go do this instead. So it produces opportunity to make money. It's also going to decrease electricity costs once they're developed because it has a constant baseload of energy production. And it will also help offset the latency issues of solar and wind energy plants. So, and these geothermal plants, they do not require a lot of upkeep, as they've noticed in the past, so that's also a good thing. The challenges, though, it's just these barriers to adoption are high upfront costs and interest rates. So it's very expensive, like I keep saying, but there's plans to get through that. The current technological hurdles, we're working on them, but they're just not quite there yet. And then lastly, this is not to scoff at either, it's the fear of seismic activity from drilling into these fault lines. There's actually less involved with the horizontal drilling than people think, but it's still something that people are skeptical about. The future goals, though, for EGS revolve around reducing the expedition prices and moving beyond the traditional hotspots. So there's plans with the Geothermal Technologies Office to reduce the costs of EGS by 90% by 2035. This will streamline the process and it will also improve the drilling technologies. So the future goal of EGS is to move beyond the western area of the U.S. and the volcanic areas and to be able to go wherever we want. So in conclusion, EGS could transform the renewables market. It's going to take continued innovation, collaboration, and funding, though. The hope is that in the future, EGS will be the cornerstone of renewables and not just a supplemental source of power for the others' latency issues. So it's going to be an expensive venture, but if it all works out, it's going to be worth the wait. And these last slides are just my references, but thank you guys for listening.